everybody. Welcome back to the Crazy Hockey Dads podcast, episode number 22.
Double deuce.
Dom's hockey number, actually.
Has he kept the same hockey number all these years?
For a while now, yeah.
I always have like a different number every year.
Is that right?
I think so.
So what's he going to be this year?
14.
Which he was not last year?
No.
No. All right.
No. He went from 97.
Right.
Then he went to 26 because apparently he lost a bet.
Right.
I thought it was going to be because I was 13. So I thought like my secret dad hope was that he just doubled my hockey number, but apparently I was wrong. So, and then he went to, then after 26, then he was 87 last year, and now he's 14 naturally.
You want to hear a story? You mentioned 87.
Yeah.
All right. So Dominic is gonna be a last year mite, so like 8, right?
Okay.
And we're at the Avalanche, and they're like, put down. You make the team. They're like, oh, go ahead and write down 3 numbers that you want: your first choice, second choice, and third choice.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So we're standing there.
99.
We're like, nah, he knows I wouldn't let him do that, right?
Yeah.
So we're like, Dom, like, what numbers do you want? And he's like, I want 87. And I look at him and I go, Dominic, you hate Sidney Crosby. He goes, no, Dad, I want 87. I'm like, you sure?
What?
He's like, 87. I'm like, okay, 87. So I'm like, 87. Like, what else you want?
Crosby.
Dude, he loves him now, but at the time when he was a mite, hated him, right? So he's like, I'm like, okay, write that 87. And then he's like, I'm like, Dominic, give me another number. He's like, 65. I'm like, 65. I'm like, what are we, like an offensive guard in football? I'm like, okay, 65. I'm like, what else? He's like, and 95. I'm like, no. I'm like, and I look at him, I'm like Lightning McQueen?
Was that what it's from?
He says no.
Questionable. Fair.
Right?
Okay.
So I was like dumbfounded at the numbers. I'm like, I wanted that kid, but why don't you just take like 12? Because you're in 2012. Like, this is not difficult, right? Just take 12. So he's like, no. 87, 65, 95. Okay, fine. So, and I was questioning because he's like, I hate Sidney Crosby. I'm like, you do? He's like, I hate him. I'm like, okay. So 87. I'm like, all right, okay, different, but all right. So, and then like we find out his numbers months later when the jerseys are like going to be made.
What do you get? Yeah.
He gets 87. Scott. He has when I say a meltdown, melt down. Like, I mean, like tantrum, crying, like, I hate Sidney Crosby. And I'm like, dude, I said that to you when we were doing it. He's like, no, you didn't. I hate Sidney Crosby. I'm like, you just cannot like reason with somebody like that.
Yeah.
Like, you can't argue with
crazy.
Right. Like, you can't argue with like the furniture, so I'm like, so I had to call the Avalanche and be like, yeah, like, listen, I appreciate that you gave him his first choice. Can you give him like something else? She's like, well, 65's taken. I'm like, well, that's not a bad thing. so I'm like, what's this other list? She's like 95. I'm like, fine. I'm like, just go with it.
Yeah.
And he was 95 for like, I don't know, 1 or 2 years. And then the funny part about it is then we moved organizations. So he was 95 for 1 year. We moved organizations.
Yeah.
Get a load of this shit. And the other organization that shall remain nameless.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Okay. I know what
shall remain nameless.
Yeah.
Because they do a lot of weird stuff. I wrote down what numbers. And the coach comes back to me and he's like, yeah. So I wrote down like 95 because Tom's like, I want to be 95 again. Okay, fine. Lightning McQueen. Here we go. Right. So I wrote down like 95 and they said, they're like, you can only pick between like 1 and like 35 or like 40. Do you know why?
No, I don't.
So
why?
I don't technically know why either. My guess is we were first year squirts. My guess is the second year squirts were getting like 40 through 99. And they didn't want to print 2 runs. Just 1 run. They didn't want to do like...
Oh, that's interesting.
I don't know that for a fact. This is the only building I've ever been in where they're like, you can only pick 1 through 40. Have you ever heard of that?
Oh, I guess the math works out where they have less players or, than numbers.
Maybe more cost conscious.
No, I understand that, but I'm just saying, like, what happens if you like have 50 players at the age group?
I remember my good friend who fell through the ceiling in the pro shop. Episode 6, breaking and entering. Go check it out if you haven't. Episode 6, phenomenal story at the end about my buddy falling through a pro shop ceiling. His child.
Yeah.
He has a thing with having to have his kid wear 43. And 43 was not available because you could only have 1 through 40.
To 40. That's wild. If that's true.
I've never experienced that again. Have you?
No. Because what's the difference to the person printing it?
Scott? Well, the difference
they print everything in there. They print everything in that.
They print everything in-house.
Yeah.
They don't use a third party. They print everything in-house.
But so still, I don't get it's still.
I don't either. I'm sure it was a cost issue.
Well, they're very business-minded over there.
Yeah. That's putting it gently.
Well,
Yeah.
Okay, so 95, then he went to 22?
Then he went to 22.
Because it was less than 30 or 40.
We moved organizations, and he was allowed to pick whatever number he wanted, even if it was 95.
And he stayed with 22.
It was 22, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Where did 22 come from?
Cole Caulfield.
Oh, that's a great one.
Came from Cole Caulfield. But then now Cole Caulfield, speaking of our guest that you guys are going to hear shortly, with the Ohio Blue Jackets, Cole Caulfield then moved to Johnny Gaudreau's 13. So Dom has stayed with 22 that obviously Cole Caulfield's not wearing anymore, but he stayed with it. But that's why
interesting.
Yeah, because Dom is not a big kid, right? So he gravitates toward Cole Caulfield.
Yeah, he's an outstanding, tremendous player.
Cole, he's phenomenal.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. And what's so great about like Montreal also? Well, that's like
they're such a good young hockey team right now.
I know, but like the fact that like St. Louis is like the coach and he was an undersized player, and then he's got like Caulfield, Suzuki's not a big person.
No, he's not.
Then you got Lane Hudson,
also not a big dude. Yeah.
But I mean, like that's got to be awesome for these undersized players who have like access to one of the best undersized players probably of all time, and like they can just like lean into that and like learn. And,
sure.
Like,
and what's crazy? What's crazy about those 3 guys that you mentioned, Suzuki, Caulfield, and Hudson, is that the skill level is just off the charts with those.
The charts. Yeah,
it's crazy.
No, it's crazy.
Yeah. So that's my story. But no, I was just saying that's my story about 22, which is the episode that we're on right now.
Well, that was a great story.
I'm glad everybody liked it. I hope you enjoyed it.
No, I didn't actually. I never. Not that. I don't know. That never came up in conversation between us. But that's interesting. I had no idea.
Yeah.
Wow.
So there you go.
Okay. Well, if you buy 1 through, I'm assuming it just went up to 98. At that building.
Yeah. Correct.
Awesome. Okay, so episode 22. We are back this week with another interview.
Yep.
Which is super exciting. So we have Erik Cagnina from Athletic Performance Insight, API. And what a great interview. Just such a unique perspective, I think, on the youth hockey landscape.
Oh yeah.
And his company, they, so in layman's terms, basically, like if any team that works with them, like you submit video and then they've got people on his end using his platform that he's built out to capture all different types of stats and analytics. So someone will rewatch the game and they tag it is what they'll call it. And, like every time there's an offsides, they'll, mark offsides. Every time that there's a penalty, goal, assist, save, like all the stats, all the under the hood stuff. They've got people that are rewatching like youth hockey games or up to college and whatever, high school. and then they tag it, and on the back end, that team gets back a game that's like broken down, and you can drill down on all different types of metrics. I think he gave the example of like, where shots are taken from. So you can drill down on the position on the ice where every shot was taken.
Right.
You can see what was inside the dots, outside, wherever, blue line. You can see who's taking those shots. So if you've got someone that's like taking a lot of low percentage shots, you can easily figure that out. And it's a great tool. Obviously there's others that are out there, but I think Erik, oh, did you hear that?
What was it?
Just got interrupted upstairs. Yeah,
that's all right. I did hear it, but that's all right.
No, but Erik, so like they're great. Customer service is great. They do all the things that like, some of the big corporations like that do as well. And I can't recommend him enough. I
mean, essentially coaches and organizations would use his platform to use as a teaching tool, right? For their players, like analytically and with video, correct?
Totally. So even though, and he said also, I think every team might have a different use case. They don't all use the analytics in the same way.
Right.
So like, and I think an obvious example would be like, when I was using it for Otto's team when they were, they were first year sports.
Maybe a little young, but hey, listen, start them early.
Start them early. But I can only laugh now, but the intentions and motivation were good-hearted.
Yes.
But no, like a younger age group is not going to look at like some of the same stats as like an older age group would.
Right.
So it can be used in different ways for all different. But yeah, so you get the video back, and what you can do is, you as a coach, you can rewatch it, and if you see something that one of the players did, you can like invite them to view that particular clip and like give them a heads up and like type in some feedback directly into the play, like using their system, and share it.
Send them out to the players.
Send it out to the players. You can obviously also have video review sessions with the team where everyone huddles up, around the TV, a projector, whatever it might be, and watch video. I remember, dude, so I don't know, this probably qualifies as a little bit of a crazy hockey parent story, but I would literally go on like in 10U, no, 8U, Jesus, crazy.
They're mites? They're mites?
No. It was after mites. It was 10U.
Okay.
But I would literally bring my computer monitor from home, like like a bigger curved one.
God.
I would travel with it.
Would you put it up on like a screen?
No, well, so I would like in between games sometimes, instead of having the kids like go crazy at the hotel, like running around and being wild.
You would go to a conference room.
100%. And I'd have like my AV equipment.
Yeah, we did that too.
Yeah.
A little older than you guys, but we did it too.
Yeah, I definitely
Not
did
till
that.
Pee-wees.
Yeah. So in any event, so I could just getting back to Erik. So like the bottom line is that so like video review, you can be done from, like a team perspective, an individual perspective. And it just really, you start to look at things and the way your team performs and plays from a different perspective when you start seeing like and looking at the different analytics.
Yeah.
And also it's great for goalies. One of the benefits.
Yeah, he was saying that.
Yeah, for his system, like, so we would also have like goalie cams, or there were GoPros you'd hang up behind the goals, but we would put one on each end for the duration of the whole game. And so when any part of the game was tagged, let's say it was a shot on goal or a save, depending on what end of the ice you're on, you can then toggle between the center ice view, think your live bar and think your, whatever center ice view. And then you could like switch it to see from behind the net. So if you're a goalie,
that's cool.
Then the goalies can see, what was their angle,
what they were seeing.
100%. Yeah. So
that's
super
cool.
useful. Yeah. No, it's great. And, so he's our guest this week, and he'll plug
Good
it
guy.
when he talks later. But for anyone that listens to the podcast, if you're a coach, you're a team manager, you've been thinking about analytics for video review for your team for this upcoming season, please check them out. Athletic Performance Insight is where you'll find them. They'll do a demo for you. no problem, no cost. They'll tag a game for you just so you can see what the end result is. Mention Crazy Hockey Dads and you can get a 10% discount off of your subscription if you so choose. But yeah, definitely worth checking out.
He's like the Billy Bean of youth hockey.
Yeah. He's like the Billy Bean of
Moneyball.
Yeah, no doubt. Crazy.
He's good. A lot of analytics. He's good.
Yeah. And so there's Erik and API talking about our partners, and then Howie's Crazy 10. And then your neighbor.
Angelo Circe. With ProStride. Yeah, Angelo's the New Jersey. I know we say it on every episode. New Jersey Devils head power skating coach. We are going to have him on shortly. I'm going to be back from vacation at the end of this week.
Gotta lock it in, dude.
Yes, we do. Maybe we'll take a break, like you and I were talking about, have him on the following, right?
Yep.
We'll figure that out logistically. But if you call and you mention Crazy Hockey Dads podcast, you can get the discount. If you go through it online, it's CHD10 is our discount code for Angelo's power skating clinics. Guy's tremendous. You guys will get a lot out of it. Guy's wonderful.
You know what's so funny? When you said call,
mm-hmm.
I thought to myself,
you can call him. You actually can call and mention us. Oh my God. Yeah, I know. It's like
who calls anyone nowadays?
Yeah. No, you're not wrong.
Yeah. Just send a fax.
Meanwhile, calling
your pigeon.
Calling is better. It's better for socialization.
It is.
Yes, it is. 100%. Especially for kids.
Yeah. Oh, Jesus. No doubt.
Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. So that was partners.
Yep. Should we update our geographic situation?
Go for it.
So Canada is unchanged. We are just missing 2 territories in Canada. We have all 10 of the Canadian provinces, along with the Yukon, one of their 3 territories. We're missing 2. So let's go, Canada. Get on the ball. We need 2 more to cap you guys out. I have a feeling that's coming soon. So that's Canada. In the States.
Put it out there.
Right?
The secret.
Right? Exactly, right? And you know who knows the secret.
Only one man.
Only one man is right.
Only one man dare give me the raspberry.
The beard is legendary. Nice Spaceballs reference by you, buddy. Very, very well done. Yeah, exactly. So that's Canada. The United States, we picked up Louisiana. So I have lost our bet. I said Louisiana was going to be the last state to join. I was wrong. So I am out, and Scott's Arkansas is still in play. So, and I have to say one thing. So our analytics give us like how and who's listening in every state. Okay.
Well, not who.
Well, it gives us an idea of how much each state is downloading percentage-wise.
Yes.
Okay,
but not like who the listener is.
No. Where the listens are coming from.
Yeah.
Right. So I have to bust chops right now because Louisiana, which should be on the bottom of the list because they just started listening.
Yes.
They have jumped North Dakota. Like, really, Nodak? Seriously? Like, you're letting Louisiana? They don't even play ice hockey down there. If they do, it's very minimal. You're North Dakota. I mean, what are you doing? South Dakota is way up on our list. Listener-wise, North Dakota is second from the bottom. So, Nodak, let's go.
Okay.
So that's our U.S. Update. Meanwhile, New Hampshire's also down low in that list. I'm not sure what you're doing either. So get with it, New Hampshire.
A lot of good hockey in New Hampshire.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
When I was up there for Otto, I was like, wow, we've got I'm not all this is in but like Merrimack and Dartmouth and obviously UNH. Dartmouth's in New Hampshire, right? Or am I mistaken?
I want to. Is Merrimack in Massachusetts? I think Merrimack's in Massachusetts. Google it for me.
I don't know. There's a Merrimack River that's over there for sure.
So it's funny you say that because we would play. Google that for me, by the way. Google Merrimack. I want to say Merrimack's in Mass because we played a bunch of showcases there every year because Oh, who plays out of the Merrimack rink? There's a Boston Ice Hockey Club. For the life of me, I'm drawing a blank. I see the logo.
Dartmouth is in New Hampshire.
Right? Where's Merrimack? I want to say Merrimack's in Massachusetts.
Merrimack, it is. It's in North Andover.
Yeah, so
not bad.
The Boston club, which I cannot believe I'm blanking on right now, the Boston club that plays out of Merrimack's ice. There's 2 sheets of ice. They plays on the NCAA ice, and next to it is the Boston Hockey Club with the lighthouse on the logo. Help me.
What? I was looking at the interwebs.
What is the Boston Hockey Club, the youth hockey club that has the lighthouse?
Oh, the Middlesex Islanders.
Thank you. The Middlesex Islanders play out of where Merrimack is.
Yeah, but that's great. So when we had a tournament, and I know I cut off the geography update, but yeah, the Tewksbury, I think.
Is that another place they play?
No, I could be butchering the name, but I was surprised when we were playing. It's like you're going to play a tournament in Boston. It's never in Boston. It's always outside
it's all
of
over
Boston.
The place.
And so we were playing up where I think it's like 3 Skate or something like that is the name of the rink.
Oh, yes.
And that's like on the border of Massachusetts.
It's like Skate 3 or something like that.
Skate 3, right?
Yeah.
That's like on the border of New Hampshire. Like we went to pick up a birthday cake down the road in New Hampshire. I was like, geez, this is not exactly Boston.
Yeah, like Rhode Island, New Hampshire, and Mass are all right there. So you go over state lines to go play in those 3 areas we got there, essentially, right? But yeah, so New Hampshire, again, get your shit together. NODAC, get your shit together, because there's the teams that are the states that are above you are like Alabama. Like what?
No, don't knock Alabama, man.
No, I'm not. But I'm saying Alabama's listening more than New Hampshire and North Dakota, and that's not supposed to be.
Listen, all in due time, good sir. But I agree.
No question.
I agree.
I had to break balls though. So we picked up Louisiana in the States, and then overseas, man. Overseas is wild. We picked up Germany, picked up 2 regions in Germany. We picked up New Zealand. We got 3 regions in New Zealand, which is wild to me. And what was the other one, Scott? Why am I blanking?
The Czech Republic.
And the Czech Republic, right. And we picked up 2 regions in the Czech Republic. It was 2 in Germany, 1 in the Czech Republic, and 3 in New Zealand.
And then also a little bit more area in Sweden.
And we picked up another region of Sweden, yes.
Listen, I'll tell you, if you ever quit your day job, you have a future in geography teaching.
Listen, I'm not going to lie to you. I am learning a lot of geography from looking at our map. I'm sure you are too, by the way.
Listen, I would be lying if I didn't learn a little something about Latvia.
I was just going to say, I can now tell you exactly where Albania is on the map.
Yeah, there you go.
Which I had the general area before, but I couldn't have pointed it out on a map that was blank.
Yeah, well, listen, hey, you learn something new every day.
Right. So that's our update for our location. Doing nicely. We really appreciate everybody that's downloading and listening. We hope you're enjoying the content. We had some cool interviews. You guys are really going to like our interview with Erik that's coming up in seconds here.
Yep.
So thank you everybody for paying attention and downloading. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us. We love to hear hockey stories, or if you want us to talk about a certain topic, by all means, we're interested in hearing from you.
Yeah, 100%. So I think with that said, let's kick it over to Erik. And great interview. Hope everyone enjoys.
Here we go.
All right, everyone. Welcome to our guest, Erik Cagnina from Athletic Performance Insight. So happy to have him aboard for this episode. I got to know Erik several years ago through his current business, API, and I started working with him to tag my son's games and show, the 8-year-olds of the world how video review works. Because, it's a little normal for 8-year-olds to have video review, but anyway, we are crazy hockey dads here. But nonetheless, it was so good getting to know Erik, and obviously he has his own business, and I would recommend it to anybody 100%. But it was a really great opportunity for me as a coach to learn a lot, having gone through the process of like tagging games and looking at like the under the hood analytics that they offer. And it was super helpful for me. I don't know how much the kids ultimately took away from this, all of it, but I thought it, planted a really good seed because like, and honestly, what went through my mind at the time was that, like, you see all these kids are sitting in front of their iPads, screens, whatever, and people learn in all different ways. And as crazy as it might sound to have video review for the younger age groups, I and other families also thought that it would be a good way for kids to kind of see what it is we're trying to teach them. So in any event, that's how we got to know each other, and glad to have him on the podcast today. And so Erik, out in Ohio, correct? Whereabouts in Ohio again? I forget. Sorry. Columbus. Oh.
Blue Jackets territory.
Absolutely. Yeah, I remember when I was out there, it was such a pleasure to meet you. I had a crazy weekend that weekend.
Yes, it was.
It was. So basically, when we were out there, right from the beginning, the first game of the tournament, we were out there, and I packed Otto's bag, and I didn't pack his repack, like his undergarments, like his jock with his cup. And I was like, oh shit, the game was early, pro shop was closed. I decided not to climb over the roof and go into a pro shop, James.
Episode 6.
But I ran back to the hotel. I drove a car way too fast.
Oh my God, that's where you were?
Yeah.
I forgot about that.
Yeah. And then they had just gotten some rain and the roads were slick, and I slid off the road and I needed to get a tow. And then I get to the game, and anyway, it was a whole thing. And then I finally got to meet Erik. And as soon as I walked into the game where Erik was, because he was tagging or, participating in another team's game, I see the coach calling, go see your son, go see your son. He had hit his head really hard. So in one weekend of a hockey tournament, I needed both to make sure I had my current insurance information, vehicle insurance, and I also needed to make sure I had my son's health insurance. And then got delayed to go home. It was a wild weekend. But anyway, I'll stop talking, and Erik, let you say a few words just kind of about your journey and like how you even got into the game of hockey, your kids, how that went, and then ultimately your business.
Yeah, well, thanks a lot for having me on, guys. I really appreciate it. So I grew up playing. I was born in Buffalo. We moved to Cleveland, third grade, I think I was. So I played through my youth. We lived kind of outside of downtown Cleveland at the time. I ended up going to high school that didn't have hockey, so that's where my career kind of ended, was at the Pee Wee level. Put it on hold for a long time, and then as my younger son got into sports, hockey was always my first love, and we got him out skating, and he seemed like a natural, and we just kind of took it from there. So he played the typical house mites, and then moved on, played a year of AA travel. There's a story to how he ended up in AAA for the next 2 years, back to AA, 2 years off where he played basketball in middle school, and then made it into high school. And his school had a hockey team. It's kind of like hockey, bunch of guys on skates. The quality of play was a little off at times, yeah, but but so they were extremely happy to have him. He got to walk into a situation where he was kind of right away in a leadership role, kind of. So so for not a lot of victories in those 4 years, but a lot of good times, a lot of good friends, and all that. So, and then he hung him up after that. So that's like the very quick story behind my son AJ.
That's awesome.
And how did you? And now tell everybody a little bit about what you do now.
Yeah. So during that, as I mentioned, he played 2 years of AAA, then moved back and played a year of AA. So the last year of AAA and that last year of AA that he played, myself and some other parents decided, hey, we're gonna take stats for the team, and get some video and stuff like that. So I'm kind of like an analytics guy. I it's something I enjoy. So we went kind of deep, Scott. Hopefully you can appreciate, way deeper than we probably should have. So we were tracking a lot of different stuff, and we'd get back, after a weekend tournament or something, and I'd be plugging numbers into spreadsheets and dragging dots around, making shot charts and stuff. And after The second year, I'm like, oh my God, this is taking like way too much time. There's got to be something out there that, kind of does what I want to do. And, is a reasonable price for like a travel team and all that. And the more I looked, I couldn't find anything that did everything that I wanted it to do or thought it should do. So kind of like one of those moments where you're like, okay, there seems to be like, I can't find anything, other people I talk to say, yeah, that would be great. So you kind of, pick a spot to take a stab in life sometimes. And that was mine. So, and it kind of worked out where when he stopped playing hockey all of a sudden, and I wasn't traveling with him everywhere, and that it gave me time to kind of dive in, start the business. And it gave me an excuse to hang around rinks when I don't actually have a kid playing too. So that's probably the truth too. So I took the idea. So the idea was, instead of having clipboards and tracking a lot of stuff by hand, if you could do it digitally, that increases the efficiency. It increases.
Eric, sorry to interrupt you, but about how long ago was this when you first started this?
So this would have been 9 years ago now. Was like really the first investigation of, can I take this kind of very manual process and move it to something that's more of a digital
and
platform.
automate it somehow, right?
Right, exactly.
Awesome.
So met with a couple different local programming firms, had a beta version built that the version that you're used to, Scott, it probably had half of that functionality.
Wow.
But it was really just designed to, hey, let me show it to some people. Let me see, what they think, get some feedback. And the good news was the feedback was good enough where I'm like, okay, this seems like a good idea. It seems like there's a market for this. The bad news was I had absolutely no confidence that it was, either stable enough to roll out broadly or scalable enough to roll out broadly. So I went back, took like kind of that beta version I had, interviewed some kind of, bigger programming shops around here and had it entirely rebuilt over that summer to something that is now, the current version that you're seeing with the additions that we make, typically every summer, where we add some new features and stuff like that.
So you're constantly updating it.
Yeah, I get very nervous about doing anything too big during the season because, as much testing as you can try to do, there's still sometimes bugs that can slip through. So when you have something that seems to be functioning well, you don't want to go too far out.
Right.
So usually what we'll do is, decide the big changes, the big kind of improvements that we'll make over the summer. Try to give ourselves plenty of time to test them, and then once we have confidence, we still have some time to then, push the new app versions out, get the website updated to the, to the production version, and not be, too nervous that all of a sudden things are going to go haywire on you.
Yeah. Okay. So when you first dove into this, and I think part of what we want to touch on is just kind of like, as a parent, kind of like the roller coaster that may or may not have been, but it sounds like there was one to an extent. But like, were you there as like, I don't know, a crazy hockey dad being like, I need to get more information to make my kid a better player? Like, kind of like, what was the spirit in which this kind of really like came about? And then also you had mentioned like the AA and the tier 1, tier 2 thing, if you could address that also separately, kind of like that journey and maybe the whys behind some of it and the things that went well and didn't.
Sure. So I'll start with kind of the data side of things. And yeah, it was kind of a combination. Myself and a couple other parents, particularly that first year, were all kind of thinking the same thing, talking, saying, hey, it would be great if we had more information for the coaches to use to make decisions, plan practices, stuff like that. So it was kind of like one of those things where a couple people were thinking the same thing at the same time, and it just, made it real easy to kind of dive into it. The coaching staff was supportive. We didn't really have anything that they were using at the time. So to add a little bit of, of data of analysis to kind of what they're seeing with their eyes, seemed to be great. And I think it worked out well at the time. And then we just kind of took that, and even though it was a different organization the next year, I kind of had that process in place. So it was really just kind of taking it one step further, because I was able to show, the new organization, the new team, hey, this is what we did last year. Would this be of interest to you? And again, they were all on board. It was nothing close to what they were getting at the time. So to be able, back then, to even just see, what are your centers, face-off percentages, what do shots look like? Is there a player that, has taken 80% of his shots from outside the dots, and stuff like that, you're not going to have unless you have someone kind of tracking that information. So, so it seemed to, to be well received, and to hopefully, add some value to both teams in terms of player feedback, practice planning, stuff like that.
And the age group, I'm sorry, but the age group at that time, you were looking, how old were the kids that this was kind of like being developed?
Yeah, so it would have been Pee Wee years.
Okay.
Yeah, so Pee Wee minor, Pee Wee major.
Got it.
2 years.
And I'm just curious, Eric. So you guys essentially you clip, you tag and make little clips for the coaches to then bring to a kid and say, hey, listen, this was good, this was bad. I mean, tell everybody exactly how coaches would utilize what you guys do.
Yeah, so that early version, when we were doing it by hand, we really couldn't. There wasn't any video integration necessarily. They were two separate things. We had video, we had stats, but they weren't together. And that was really the key thing that I wanted to do by digitizing the input, was then being able to say, okay, with every, event that we're tagging, we now have a timestamp. We have all this information that we can use to start to manipulate video and be able to filter on it and get down to, in a really efficient way, hey, show me all of, player 10's, shots on goal, or all of the team's, failed zone exits or whatever. So previously, the only way to do it was how, a lot of coaches were doing it and still do it. It's kind of scrolling through video, finding stuff. Maybe they're writing down timestamps and stuff like that. Once we had the software in place, the program in place, it became very natural to where you were tracking all these events. It was giving you good information, good reports, good data, but then you could also leverage that into a really efficient way to utilize the video. And that's where, where Scott and I went down, a pretty deep hole at times, kind of diving into the different ways that you could kind of chop up the events and look at different ways, and be able to then flag for the team or flag for players and say, hey, here's an example of where you did a great job. Hey, here's something else where maybe, maybe we'd do it a little bit different way next time. So
now you have the data part and the video part together in the software that you have now kind of, expanded on from where you started 10 years ago.
Exactly. Okay. They're all integrated. And, one of the other important things that I wanted to do was have the ability to look at multiple angles too. So we have the ability then to link up to 3 angles in, so you can put, generally speaking, it's a center ice view and then 2 goal cams.
Right.
So again, the whole idea is to try to really, there you go. So
I've got an assortment behind me.
Me too. So, the whole idea, I mean, really what we're trying to do ultimately is make things more efficient, and increase the efficiency of gathering the data, of reviewing the data, of, using video for film, opening it up to the players to do some of their own self-discovery. We're just trying to make everything more efficient. And I would say one of those things also was providing then some tools for goalies, because goalies, I think, oftentimes get, kind of left behind a little bit when teams are planning out, resources. So now we had the ability now to go in and leverage off of that data that we're collecting, that information that we have to help goalies. So goalie could come in and say, show me all of my shots and goals that I faced this last game. And then they'd be able to just very quickly click through, look at their angles, look at their recoveries, look at their depth, and, do all the stuff that goalies
That's great.
Do to try to get better.
It's awesome. I mean,
Wow.
it's
So if I wouldn't mind just like kind of like going back though to AJ's journey, which you had started saying. So started at a young age, but went to the tier 1, tier 2 kind of roller coaster. Perhaps what was that like for you? What were some of like the motivations or circumstances, if you're willing to talk about why you went between the two, and maybe what were some of like the learnings, like for better or for worse?
Yeah. No, I'd love to. And it was a 4-year roller coaster ride, that's for sure. So, he came out of Mites, and I don't know if it's exactly the same everywhere, but Squirt's kind of generally the first travel year, at least around here. At the time, there were 2 significant travel organizations that were here in town. And he tried out for one, ended up making that team, so he made the AA team. We were very happy, very excited, and it was a fun year. I was one of the assistant coaches, and a lot of fun. So we'll fast forward to tryouts, which happen, of course, right at the end of the season.
Right, like the next day.
Roll right in.
No rest.
And the organization had a turnover in terms of like the hockey operations side. They were clearly going to do some things differently. New coach from what he had the year before, and as tryouts were going along, I just being a dad, I started to get this like really weird feeling in my stomach, because he was a good player, wasn't one of the best, wasn't one of the worst, he was somewhere in the middle on the team. But you also, the next year was when, you were starting up AAA, at least at the time around here. So the top 4 or 5 kids off his team were moving up to the AAA team. So in my mind going in, I'm thinking like, this is a no-brainer. Tryouts go on, and I'm getting like this worse and worse feeling. And then, one of the other coaches that was kind of more on the inside is like, yeah, your bad feeling is, there's a reason for it. So he was going to end up on the single A team. And, I felt like at the time there was this massive injustice being done.
Right.
And it's easy to say like, oh, the kid wouldn't have cared at all. I don't know about that. Like, I think he would have looked and said, what the hell are, those 4 kids doing on this team instead of me,
right.
And all the kids that were coming back from the year before and all that. So even though he was young, I'm not, I don't think you can necessarily say he wouldn't have cared. He would have been happy just playing anywhere.
Erik, quick question,
yeah.
But like the bad feeling that you had, was this, how much of this was driven by like on ice performance versus like hockey politics versus
other hockey parents getting in your ear, that type of stuff?
No, entirely kind of politics, and kind of like knowing that there was the potential that the organization. So as I mentioned, like a new hockey director came on board that year. Kind of an older school Canadian guy who had it in his head that he was going to try to run a Columbus travel program, like one of the Canadian town programs. So in other words, kids that came up through that house organization were going to get preferential treatment. Like there was some things going on because we didn't come up through that organization. So, it was just one of those things. And then, you get like the early callbacks, right? Oh, hey, no need for, for those 4 kids to come back to the next one. None of this was happening. None of it was feeling good.
Right.
So, writing on the wall, we end up getting an offer for the single A team. And, like I knew the single A coach, great guy, good coach, like it would have been fine. And one thing I'll note, like put this as like anecdotal evidence, 1 million for the people out there, but one of the kids on that team is playing NCAA D1 hockey right now.
The single A team.
On that single A team,
Isn't that interesting?
as a squirt major.
Right.
So, just goes to show.
Right.
Kid's good, kid's willing to work hard.
Yep.
Like nothing has been decided when you're that
they
young.
all develop their own path, their own time.
Exactly. So, so I'm like, okay, well, I guess, it is what it is. And I had another buddy whose kid was actually like in the exact same boat as us. And he's like, hey, there's a new AAA organization starting up, they're doing tryouts next weekend. So I'm like, AJ, do you want to give this a try? And he's like, I don't know, maybe. I said, well, Josh is going. Oh, okay, I guess. So it happened to be, it was Tri-State Spartans. They were basically a startup out of TPH. TPH had the Southern model where they basically had they developed a way to bring, to have teams be able to compete without density of players. So you were able to grab 2 or 3 players from, one city, 2 or 3 players from another city. And what they did is, so anyways, he goes to tryouts again, like to my eyes, he didn't stand out. But one thing I'll say is, the coach said before the tryout started, he said, don't take crazy shifts. Like, don't be the guy out there trying to skate for 5 minutes at a time. So he goes out and he does exactly what he's been instructed to do.
It's coachable.
Takes a nice, 90-second shift. Doesn't score any goals, but blocks a few shots like he's doing kind of, what he does. Yeah. And, and he comes out and I'm like, AJ, you could have stayed out a little bit longer. Well, there it is. Like the idiot dad. Because, he ended up making that team because he did exactly what they were asking him to do. He was a good skater and that. So ends up making the team. And as I was going back to the model, so basically he was the only kid from Columbus. There were a few kids from Cincinnati, a few kids from Dayton, a few kids from Indianapolis, a few kids from Fort Wayne. So they would set up and they had, the whole range of age groups. So they would have weekday practices in those different cities. So we were driving an hour and a half one way to get to Dayton twice a week for practice. And then on the weekends, when we didn't have games or tournaments, they would do what they call like high performance weekends. So all the kids would come meet in one of those cities and they do 2 or 3 practices over the weekend. So it was a grind. It was a grind for everybody.
And Josh didn't make the team?
Josh did not make the team.
Man.
Yeah. So, which AJ was not too happy about. And, that very first like high performance weekend when everyone's coming in, he comes off the ice bawling. First time. And I'm like, bud, what's up? And he's like, I don't want to do this. I don't know anyone, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, well, we just paid a lot of money, so you need to figure it out.
And as all this was kind of like unfolding, like you kind of like realize like the dust is settling and you know what you've gotten yourself into, maybe more or less. Like at this point, did you have how did you feel being AAA versus single A? Like at this point, like are you like glad that you're on like the higher level team? Like how did that kind of like wash out?
Yeah, I mean, I was excited. I think once he got settled in, got to know some kids, and there were some characters on that team. Like there were 4 or 5 kids that were pieces of work. So it was a fun team from a player perspective to be on, I think. So once he got his comfort zone, he was okay. But, I will say he never got totally comfortable with being gone all the time, like every weekend and missing, the birthday party and the stuff like that. So, so that was always kind of hanging over the situation a little bit. So that season started out fine. Again, like kind of the same situation. Not the best player, not the worst player, doing his thing. Couple months into the season, breaks his wrist. Got hit from behind into the boards. It was just one of those weird things. And I will say, so as I've told you, Scott, like this coach, he was hard on the kids. Like, and most of the dads it was like a comedy show for us. Like we'd show up these high performance weekends and we'd all be like lounging up in the seats, and just watching these practices where he's just going to town on some of these little kids. And moms did not like that very much. Dads, and there were a few dads, but most of us were just like, hey, we all went through it, whatever. But one of the opening parents weekend, he said, I forget exactly how he phrased it, something to the effect of, your players will be expected to play through adversity or something like that. In other words, if your kid's rolling around on the ice because he tripped and bumped his hand or something, there's going to be problems. So, and the kids understood this very quickly with him. So there was, there was none of that going on. So when AJ went down, against the boards, stayed down, he came out, kind of talked to him. They get back to the bench, and then I see hold on. And that's when they had actually lifted up his jersey and his wrist was kind of in a Z. So they're like, okay, yeah. So they got him off the ice. And, the hard part about that with just the nature of the team and the organization that we were playing on was normally I would have been like, hey, this is, stuff happens, whatever. But you're part of this team. You're going to stay involved with the team. But the fact that everything was so far away, made it really difficult to justify, dragging someone that age
can't even
to stuff.
play and can't practice.
Right, exactly. Wow. So he was kind of somewhat removed from the team for, the better part of 6 weeks. And that was the first time, in retrospect, when I realized that I can be an idiot, or how big of an idiot I can be, actually, because, the best player on that team had actually broken his wrist earlier in the year. And I guess the way it goes is they put you in a big cast, and then after a few weeks they can put you in a short cast, and they can actually make the short cast so it fits into a hockey glove, and hey, you can play hockey.
I have heard that, so it is true. Okay.
Yeah. So Will was playing with a broken wrist in a short cast. So we go in, we get the diagnosis, and I'm like, so is it true, doc, that he can do this? And my wife looks at me and she's like,
nuts?
Yeah, he's 11. What the hell are you talking about?
I would have said the same thing, Aaron. I would have the same thing.
Why are you trying to have our kid go play hockey with a broken wrist?
All of us would have done the same thing, by the way.
I'm like, well, I'm not a doctor. They say it's okay. I don't know. So.
They're signing off on it. I'm good with it.
Yeah.
He's good with it.
So, cooler heads prevail. I'm like, you're right. So, so there was that extended period of time when he was kind of away from the team. And I was very curious to see once he came back, was he going to just jump right back in or not? And he never looked like he missed a beat, never had any hesitation or anything. So that was good. So season ends. And like I said, there were some wonderful parts to the team, but there was also that hesitation that, he felt like he was just missing an awful lot at home.
Right.
So we talk, and I said, it was a kind of a weird season. You got hurt, you came back, you were playing really well by the end of the year. Why don't you give it one more year and see what happens? So he agreed, came back, made the team again. And that was a really good year. We added a few other kids, ended up, I don't know, 30th in the country or something like that. So it was a decent team, pretty good team. But he was just burned by that point.
Wow.
So, we agreed that he was going to come back home, play, step down, play AA. And the hard part was, so obviously, AAA Jackets are a big organization. one of the unfortunate things was there were three or four coaches in the organization that had 2004 birth year kids. That was AJ. So, and they had, some really tight bonds and stuff. So it was a really hard team to break into. So, I'll always wonder if he would have gotten that shot to play locally, could things have turned out a little bit different? Would it have been like more manageable where, it didn't feel like such a grind to him? But we'll never know. He played on that AA team. And at the same time, he just, again, felt like he was missing out on an awful lot. And what was awesome for him was one of his best friends' dads coached the local travel basketball team. So he was able to practice with them, play in some games here and there when they were missing some people. So he was kind of getting at least a little bit of that camaraderie over time. With that, he felt like he was missing out on before just being exclusively hockey. But when that second AA season ended, he was done. I was done because I could tell like he was kind of mentally checking out, like it was, I think I can remember the first tournament weekend that I hadn't gone to, since he had been playing travel. But it was just, it was just to that point. So,
what was that like as far as like for you as a parent and like, I've, this passage, Jamie did it last year. I'm doing it this year, going from tier 1 down to tier 2. And, at first, that there's, we put so much time, effort, energy, right. And then you let's just, for a lack of, maybe it's exactly what I'm trying to say, or maybe there's a different way of saying it, but like, you're just not seeing the results that you as a parent were expecting that all this time, effort, energy were going to yield. And then like, you're faced with like, okay, well, how am I going to approach this? How am I going to deal with this? And there's like this emotional, for me, it's been like, he had a spot on this team he was on last year, which is a tier 1 team, but like similarly, this commute was too much for us as a family, and it wasn't the right fit. The coaching played a role in him not wanting to go back there. And so I think from your perspective, like, how did you, I don't know if cope is the right word, but like kind of like what did you go through internally, kind of like accepting, okay, we're going from tier 1 to tier 2, from tier 2 up to, tier 1, and then back down to not playing. Like, what was that like for you?
The roller coaster.
Yeah, it's on one hand, like I'm I'm a super competitive person, and it's hard for me to like wrap my head around that anyone would not want to push for, hey, this is the best team I can make, but the fact is he's wired entirely differently than I am. And that, as time has gone on, that's become more and more clear. So, kind of understanding that, hey, how I think about things, is definitely not how he thinks about things. In terms of the level, it was, I wish he would have kept playing, AAA for one form or another. The travel wasn't easy, but I was fine. I was happy, but I was the only one. So, what was fun about going to that AA team, though, was one of his AAA teammates was also going and playing on that same team with him, and it was actually like geared up to be a really, really good team. I think I mentioned to you, Scott, like I feel like this is one of the all-time underachieving teams, because you had, up and down that team were kids that either had played AAA before that team or after that team. Several kids are playing. That kid that I mentioned that played, is playing NCAA D1 now, was on that team. There's a kid playing NCAA D3 that was on that team. Several kids that are still playing juniors were on that team.
Wow.
Like,
Right.
It was for a AA team, it was a stacked team that just never seemed to like click. So going in, we were really excited because we're thinking, hey, we could be like one of the better AA teams in the country. And
was it
ending the season ranked 110th or whatever we were.
Right.
It clearly didn't work out like that. So that was a little bit disappointing. And that you saw, the potential to, hey, whatever it is, it's could be a really fun, good team. Watch these kids all, get a lot better together, and it just, didn't end up like that. So beginning much more exciting than, as the season went on, it kind of faded a little bit.
Interesting. So like well, I guess, yeah, from your perspective, it was hard for me, as I just mentioned, I don't to go from like that tier 1 to tier 2, but like now that I've accepted it, it's happening, like I am excited for the benefits that, Otto, I think will have, just in terms of like, overall confidence, probably playing time, especially on special teams, he'll probably get more of, et cetera, et cetera. Do you, like, for other parents that are listening that might be struggling with, do I keep my kid at tier 1, or do I go to tier 2? Like from your experience personally, and from those that were around you, is there any, do you think it's just all like mental, like FOMO, like fear of missing out, and that people just don't like see the potential benefits? Like, do you think maybe parents keep their kids at tier 1 too long for the wrong reasons?
I think that can definitely be the case. Each kid is different, and I'd say as they get a little older, and I don't know what where the break point is, or where the switchover is, but obviously, and I've heard you guys talk about this on a few other episodes, that the kid has to drive it more and more. And if you've got so then it becomes tough. Like if you've got a kid that is like dying to play AAA, but he's just hanging on every year, getting that kid to recognize that, hey, you put a lot of time in, you're clearly a very good player, but now let's take the opportunity to go and be a leader on a team and get those opportunities that you were just mentioning, get special teams time. Exactly. Yeah. Like be the guy, that guy that they're all looking to. Yep. Because sometimes it's just that little extra burst of confidence that can unleash like an entirely different level of player, that, just they start to get their confidence when they're, always on kind of the fringe. They can be an amazing player, and it's confidence at that point. But it's tough, it's when you're in the moment, and and particularly when it's a kid, one of those ones that is super driven, and as a parent, you want to do everything you can to support them and make them know that, hey, I'm in this with you. We're going to figure this out. It's hard sometimes to know that, taking that supposed step back is actually the best thing in the long run.
Yeah.
And convincing them of it. That's,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and in terms of like, I want to kind of bring in API on this one. Have you seen kids like from the teams that you've worked with, and I don't know how long you've seen like the same kid year over year, but have you seen like real examples of like your unbiased like perspective of just being like, oh, this kid who was a tier 2 player, as he's gotten older, as then like makes that shift to tier 1. I think we just lost James for a second. I'm sure he'll rejoin, but just like, I guess like for the, for, people that are concerned, like, oh, my kid will never be able to break that tier 1, door down unless they do it at a young age. And once I'm there at a young age, I need to do whatever I can to stay there. Like, have you seen kids like make that transition? And is that something that you would say is maybe more common than people think potentially?
Absolutely. Like, having, again, like a lot, I would classify myself as a regional company that is slowly growing to some national exposure, particularly in the college side. But a lot of the youth in high school that I see are, kind of Ohio based, for the most part. And so I do get to see kids now over a 5 and 6 year period kind of develop and and take a ton of different paths, and to see some of those kids that we're coming in at single A and double A and moving on to triple A. And then, even there you get different paths where, around here, sometimes you'll get kids that make the decision, okay, I played, 1 year of triple A, I've missed enough high school and I want to go play with my friends at my high school. And then, you get them to move there. So the paths are all over the place. But, what I will say is, again, going back to like when I was, AJ was coming up, I was helping coach, a few different ways in that, the hockey IQ that you see kids have these days that's being developed and coached up is just absolutely amazing to me. Like you seeing, 10-year-olds make these very, kind of like subtle, soft plays with, working with space and stuff like that is just, it blows me away these days to see just how advanced the thinking is in hockey. So it's been neat to kind of be able to see that as it's evolved over what I'd say is my experiences like the last 10 years or so.
Yeah, it's some of the things that where I think we're all guilty of like scrolling through Instagram or like YouTube and watching all these highlights, but like when you see some of these kids at the younger ages, which I think has its own issues, obviously, it's like we're living a highlight world and people aren't seeing low lights and the comparisons and all this stuff. It's not great for younger kids, I don't think. But when you do see kids who clearly get it at a young age, you're just like, wow, like where did you get that from? Because that was something like, not many people can do. But I wanted to, on the same thread, ask about like, in terms of like the age from which you think, based on like the games you've watched, your own experiences, is there like an age range where you'd say like, if anyone's going to start really taking it seriously, like this is probably the time where it's going to be, the right time to do it, or the better time, or like, is it after puberty? Is it like, does it make sense to go too far, too deep early on from your experience? Like any thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, I will definitely say, for whatever it's worth, I'm a huge believer in, multi-sport athletes and not just being a hockey only athlete, which
Welcome
is,
back, dude.
what I see
Sorry.
too often.
He's
He's back.
My bad. Beach Wi-Fi, not the best thing. Sorry about that.
So
all good.
Yeah, so I think, so from a multi-sport point of view, I hesitate, like the first kind of number or age group that pops in mind when you ask that question is kind of bantams.
Yeah.
Like I think that's a very reasonable age where if you're going to start taking it serious, putting, some extra time in, maybe making some sacrifices, to me that kind of feels like the right age. That said, God, that's still so young, and there's still so much benefit that you can get from, from being involved in those other sports. And they don't, you don't need, not all of them need to be some super high level travel, but just to play, play the other sports, and, whether it's the different, muscle uses that you're getting, or the thinking, soccer using space, right? Or the, baseball, the hand-eye coordination, like, you can come up with lots of great examples, I think, across any sport. So, while I want to say bantam, I feel like it should still be even later than that, to where, kids should really be still, spreading their time around into some other sports before they're really starting to do some serious sacrifice in terms of, this is my sport, and, all of my effort's going to go towards this right now.
And sorry, boys, I'm coming back into this because of my Wi-Fi issue, so I apologize. So if Eric, I'm going to ask you something. If you were asked this already, I apologize, and I'll move on. But and Scott might have already asked you, if you had one thing that you could do different. And again, this may have been asked already. What would you do different with your child? I know we all have things, right? Because we all look back and go, oh boy, like, did I screw up here? Did I screw up there? But if you could think of one thing for our listeners, what would some advice be?
it's tough. Like it's as we, I mentioned a bunch of times, like that the travel, the, the kind of sacrifices that AAA forced us to make, you know, did that kind of perhaps kill his love at the time a little bit? Maybe, like, I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. I'm not even sure if he knows the answer to that. I will say, the opportunity to, work with really, really good coaches and play against really, really good competition and, practice with really, really good players made him a really, really good player. So I feel like, the level he got at. So, that second year, as I was mentioning, like we were driving to Dayton, hour and a half each way. But the organization knew that like this could be a strain on some families. So what we managed to work out in that second year was once a week we were practicing with a local AA team instead. But at that point in time, he had gotten really good. So while some of their parents were like, what the hell is this kid doing out here with us? From the coach's perspective, we're like, hey, we've got a kid that, is going to push all of our players to be better and, they can look at him and say, okay, he's doing this, he's doing that. Like they saw all the benefits. And for us, it was, making things a little bit more manageable, keeping us off the road. So, so I guess that's a really long-winded way of saying I'm not sure. Like I would say, like I think AAA ended up being the wrong move necessarily. Maybe it was just the extra stuff, like the expectation of mine that when the team was doing the 10,000 shot challenge, I'm like, where are you? How did you get your 200 in today? So I probably would have tried to just back off on that extra stuff and letting him driven that himself a little bit more. And if he didn't, and there was a price to pay, then he'd pay the price. Right. But that's that. I guess.
Okay.
I guess that's where I'd go.
That makes sense. And I have a kind of a crazy question that you probably will be able to shed some light on. So Scott and I have talked before, and we mentioned on the podcast that I think that youth hockey is exploding here in the United States, right? The numbers of registered players are through the roof. They have been for the last couple of years. You can see it with all the teams popping up, right? For whatever reason, people are playing ice hockey more than they used to in this country, right? So with your business, do you see that exact same thing? I mean, am I correct about that? That youth hockey is blowing up?
I mean, there's no doubt about it. I guess just speaking to Columbus, since that's what I, see and have a good sense of history on, the participation levels are just through the roof. And I could say like, it takes time. Like obviously in the grand scheme of things, we're not a real old NHL franchise, right?
Yeah,
like 25 years, I think this year. So it takes time to kind of like get to that almost like second generation, right? Where you have the parents that played growing up, and now all of a sudden they have their kids playing, and now you're finally starting to grow some real like depth and kind of generational, fondness for the sport, where you start to really see it take hold and numbers go up, and and then all like the support facilities. So the training facilities that pop up. There's a local one here that's owned by Cam Atkinson and some other people, called the Battery. Which is
that's
kind of a studio rink, and
Battery Academy.
And they're churning out young kids, and they're working with some former pro players all the time, and they essentially are now a good, I'd say 2/3 of each of the AAA Jackets teams are coming out of that facility each year. And so again, like without those numbers to kind of justify putting that facility in, so it's kind of like this nice virtuous cycle where things just start to feed on themselves, and you get the the people here and the resources here to then support a hockey community that continues to like grow and get better and deeper.
Right. It's funny that you mentioned the Battery. Did that start out as a spring team? Because, like, I remember my kid got asked to play in that years ago for the Battery, and we never wound up doing it. So I was curious.
They, the facility came first, but they were kind of one and the same. So they had the facility, and then what they would do is then set up and grab like some local kids, but also, as you mentioned, do some invites to to other players that they had connections with in one way or another from around the country, and and hit up, I think 3 or 4 kind of spring summer tournaments over time, and and kind of, I guess, get a lot of these. And they do, it's not just younger kids. They have older kids playing on teams that they'll travel around to these kind of summer tournaments for as well. And now they're essentially kind of the, I don't know, like they'll play like the might AAA, if such a thing exists,
full ice
kind
mites.
of like where like the whatever the the youngest Penn's Elite team will come into town, and you'll see Battery playing them, not AAA.
Interesting. So, okay, nice. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's just been very interesting to see, as the resources, and again, like, there's just, Scott pointed it out to me, and I had seen it earlier, but this, this kind of news story that came up, in the past couple days, about, Dallas and the challenges that are going on there with ice, and, I would thank God, I wouldn't put Columbus, anything in that type of situation, but the fact is, as the sport grows and the number of teams grow, it's really hard to to get ice time to grow with it. And I have seen, like, I will say there have been some periods of time when there's been some, I don't know, protectionism, so to speak, in the Columbus market. So, as an example, like Daryl Belfry, one of his childhood friends who lives here, kind of started to develop he came, did a few camps in the spring, and then they were doing like a developmental kind of team. So you're thinking, all right, Daryl Belfry's coming and trying to start up like this developmental team for youth in Columbus. Like, what city would not be overjoyed on that? And they could not get ice, out of the rinks here, that were, worried that it was now going to be, competition to the, the local established travel teams. So they ended up having to, way back when they first started, rent ice that was 45 minutes east of the city. So, at a community rink that was out there. So some of that like stuff is taking place, but that Dallas story is like, man, that's over the top.
Totally.
We talked about on one of the other episodes, when big money is coming into the youth hockey space, and it's I think it's clashing a little bit with some parents, right? Who, I don't know what the word is. They're not used to it, or they're not ready for it. They're not expecting it, right? Creating some animosity, I think.
Yeah. Wow. Well, listen, I think we've had a solid convo. We're almost at an hour now. So this was awesome. And Erik, thank you so much for bringing your experience and your, from, being a parent to like your current business and sharing that with the audience. I think as we continue to, talk about this, and I would love to have you back on. I think you just have so much, real like insight that isn't, like I was talking to James about this, right? When we started talking about having people on, it's like, you listen to a lot of other podcasts and they've got like, former NHLers or people that have like, kind of like big resumes, if you will. And of course their experience is like, is amazing. But I think just hearing from, just like more ordinary folks, like yourself, although API, I put you outside of the ordinary a little bit,
a little more important than ordinary. Yeah.
But it's not like, I think that, it's very, very relatable, hearing it come from yourself and your experiences. And I think it was just shared a ton of great insight. So super appreciate it. And hopefully you'll have you back on again another time if you're open to it.
No, that would be great. I really appreciate it. And I'll say, like, the whole premise behind API is being, making that type of, video analytic system that, used to be available to only, pro teams or college teams or something like that, making it available to pretty much any team that, that has interest in it and thinks that they can use it as a development tool for the kids. So that's the whole idea, is to, to bring it back to that very, local, amateur hockey level.
And what for people listening, what's the best way for them to be in touch with you, to learn more?
Yeah, how can they find you?
Yeah, so website is just athleticperformanceinsight.com. There's some information on the system on there, demo videos, stuff like that. The website has degraded slightly over time, so we're in the midst of kind of evaluating, some other platforms to maybe switch back over to and spruce it up again a little bit. But information is on there. There's a contact form on there, so please just reach out, and if it's just curiosity, or like like Scott mentioned at the beginning, I think we're happy to tag a demo game for teams, to just say, hey, this is what we can do, this is how other teams use it, this is the range of uses that we see. Because that's one of the things I'll say, is we try to think of it as a big toolbox, and no two teams use it exactly the same. What one team, the pieces of it that one team may use may be entirely different from how another team thinks it adds value. So, we love the opportunity to talk to anyone and just learn about, what you're doing and, what you wish you had, and see if it's something that we might be able to help you out with.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Well, listen, thank you so much again. Really appreciate your time. And then, yeah, until next time, I'm sure I'll talk to you in between now and a future episode, but it was really great having you. And thanks again for everything, Erik.
Thanks so much, Erik. Appreciate it.
Definitely. Yeah. Thanks, guys.
Right,
I appreciate
it.
Take
it easy, man. All right.
All right, everybody. And we are back after our interview with Erik. He is a really fun guest. I wouldn't mind having him back on, Scott. He was a lot of fun.
Super insightful.
Yeah, very. Something different that I think a lot of our listeners, he just came from a different angle than from a lot of that I think where the rest of us come from.
Yeah, you know what I thought was so interesting? What he said at some point early on in the conversation, at how when AJ had stopped playing hockey and was playing basketball, and that's when the business kind of, like, when he kind of, I think, dedicated more time, effort, energy,
right?
And he's like, yeah, and then it was like an excuse to go to the ring, and I was like, wow, that dude loves it.
I'm telling you, man, it's addicting. I think I said that actually when he said that. It is an addicting place.
Yeah.
I think a lot of us feel that way. Yeah, and it's funny that you said, that you mentioned that he set that up when his kids stopped playing ice hockey, probably because he had a lot more time on his hands.
I mean, and when you say that, honestly, I after I was like re-listening to something, and you were talking about the car ride home. Oh, it was during one of the Vollmer interviews. Right. It might have been last week. I don't know. But the car ride home, and we were talking about that, and it only then, when you said it, did like a light bulb went off, and I was like, yeah, you're right. Like, we're not driving from like the local gym, high school gym, home. You're like in the car for hours.
Long time.
That's way different.
Long time. It's way different, because there's much more time to stew, much more time to be pissed off, much more time to, and your kid knows when you're mad,
Dude, I know.
They definitely do. There's no question about it.
The worst.
Yeah, Dominic has said it before. He's like, I know Dad's mad. Nancy's like, what do you mean he's not mad? He's like, yeah, I know he's mad. He's not saying anything.
Yeah, listen, I'm telling you right now that if there's, and it's not limited to hockey, just like being a parent and like knowing when, and I just had this the other day, like, there's life on life's terms. Things are happening outside of like, the house and whatever. And sometimes it's hard to check some stuff at the door. And, like, unfortunately, those that are closest to you sometimes can be the recipients of like misdirected, anger, hostility, and
no question.
It's not fair and not okay.
No, it's not okay.
And that is, listen, it happens. We're all humans.
Yes.
But I will say, I very much want to do a better job.
No
of
question.
That. And then, bringing hockey back into the mix is like the same thing. Like, after a game, I just want to be as positive as possible. And I'm not saying like lie to him and like sugarcoat it. I just don't think he needs to get dumped on by me. And I think he's old enough now where he knows when he doesn't play well.
Of course they do. 100% they do.
And he doesn't need to hear it from, he doesn't need to hear it from me.
No, they're already bent out of shape. I don't think a lot of good can come from dumping on your kid like that in the car. And I think, again, one of the reasons why we started this podcast, for a little bit of a therapy session for us.
Yeah.
Right. A built-in therapy session for us because we can talk and kind of get stuff off our chest so we don't take it out on our kids. And also to maybe try to help other parents, right, that are dealing with the same stuff that we are. Because I think a lot of us are in the same boat.
Yeah, and when Chris was saying it also, like, there's, it's like super helpful for me just to be doing this, but when he was talking about with Ryan, he had said something that from his perspective was not something that was, I think he talked to him about being a little like tougher going into the corners, something along those lines.
Yeah.
And like you hear him telling the story and you're like, and he was saying how for him it was like a nothing burger.
Yeah.
Right. But clearly it wasn't for Ryan.
No.
And
he got offended by it.
Yeah. And so it just goes to show that even when you think you're being constructive or you're saying something that is not harmful, and I'm not saying that was like harmful and like
but but he took it in a way that his dad was attacking him, which my child does too. So I get it. And you're not trying to, you're trying to teach and help. And so they can learn, but your child maybe doesn't take it the way you want them to take it, which happens to me all the time with my kid, all the time.
Yeah, what a mind fuck. That's those are the two words that keep coming back to my mind. Coming back to me when it's
the perfect way to describe it.
Yeah, it's a mind fuck.
It is a mind fuck.
It's a mind fuck.
Because their brains aren't developed enough yet. Some are, but a lot of them, their brains aren't developed enough yet to realize that you're not trying to hurt them, you're trying to help them. But in doing that, they take it a certain way, and it actually does wind up having a negative effect on them. Not the way we intended it to hit home, but it just hits home on the wrong way, unfortunately.
Yeah. Well, listen, hopefully, like you said, and not to beat a dead horse, but like that these conversations can help not just me and you navigate things and enter into new seasons, new weekends, new teams, new families with like different perspectives. And, even if it's just like one little thing that, you or I or one of our guests might share that can help somebody.
That can help.
Yeah. I mean, that's what makes it all the worth.
Then we're doing our job. We're doing our job to help the space.
Yep. No doubt. All right. So anyway, Erik, thanks again, buddy.
Yes.
Awesome.
Wonderful.
Awesome time.
Wonderful. Thank you for coming
definitely
on.
have you back. So what else? So wrapping.
Hockey rant? You want to do a hockey rant? Or do you want to tell the story? Because you have a very good story, which
I mentioned.
You
so
reminded me
I mentioned
in the interview with Erik. Yes. I forgot about the story, by the way. I didn't realize it took place in Ohio.
Yeah, I never want to go back to Ohio. That was one of the worst weekends I've ever had in my life.
So you told like a very like quick and dirty version of it during the interview with Erik. But can you tell maybe a more detailed version of it? Because I know what happened. Why don't you tell them exactly what happened?
So I'll tell you what happened. What happened was we're in the hotel. And I do a very good job of packing his bag most of the time. His hockey bag.
Oh, so packed it.
No. So like when we leave the house, look, he's at a point now where he needs to do it. Like I'm not still doing it, but like at this time last year, we were like, it was the first time we flew.
Right.
So I was double checking because it's not like okay, granted, you're at a rink, you can buy shit that you don't have, right? But
Yeah,
we flew out there, and I was making sure that he had everything. I wasn't leaving it off the chance. So when we got to the hotel, he wanted to, I don't know, I forget, honestly. I think he wanted to tape his stick, and he couldn't find the wax and the scissors. And so he took stuff out. And then I said, make sure to put everything back in. Sure enough, not everything ends up back in the bag, including his jock. Okay. So it's the first game of the tournament, and we get there, and like I said, we flew. So I didn't have a car. So I was with somebody else who was definitely, kind and drove us and
to the rink.
Blah.
Right.
Yeah, like he was just like hop in with us for the weekend, and I was like, yeah, great, appreciate it, thanks, bud.
Hop into his rental car.
Yeah. And so
it was like an explorer, an expedition.
Yeah,
if I remember correctly. It was a
larger. Yeah, it was I think it was an expedition.
Okay,
a large expedition.
If I remember correctly. You impressed that I remember that large expedition.
Yeah,
it was something along those lines.
That is pretty well done by you.
I think you sent me the pictures a long time ago, and I just happened to recall what it was.
Yeah. So now I'm hustling. I hustle back to the hotel. It's like, I don't know, 15 minutes away.
Trying to get his cup. Right.
This is all to get his cup
before a game starts.
So listen. So let's just go down the obvious things. The obvious things were no one else had an extra, right? It's like,
I wouldn't think so.
Oh well, listen. After that, I actually kept an extra one.
Did you?
In Otto's bag? Yeah,
that's funny.
And I actually lent it to someone during the season because they didn't have one.
Hopefully they washed it before they give it back to you.
No, they had their no, they didn't, but they had like their underwear, but there was no cup in the underwear.
I understand.
Okay, anyway.
Understood. I'd be like, you just keep it.
Listen, they're kids. Okay, yes, I agree. Wash it, whatever. So
it's all yours, bud. All yours.
So,
no need to give it back.
That was on the house.
Yeah, no need to return.
Yeah, so I was like, dude, so I started asking people, and the pro shop's not open. It's the first game in the morning. I didn't know if there was a pro shop in the rink.
Right.
And, it's like, not everyone was at the rink. It was a little chaotic, but everyone that I asked like between parents and kids in the locker room, I'm like, dude, does anyone have an extra one? Everyone's like, no. And I decided just to like, as soon as I had enough no's, I was like, I'm not taking this. I said, Otto. And I told another parent, I said, listen, can you ask if anyone has one? I'm just going to start heading over to the hotel to grab it. Blah, 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 blah.
So you borrowed your buddy's rental car.
I said, hey, listen, I need to run back to the hotel. Let me grab the keys. Like, yeah, no problem. So I'm hustling on the way back, hustling. And I'm not used to driving such a large vehicle, number one. Number two, and this will make it'll make sense when I get to the part, but it had recently rained, and it hadn't rained there in a while, and I am going into an exit which is like the turn is longer than it looks. So
the off ramp or the on ramp?
I was like off ramp onto like another highway, and I'm going into this turn, it keeps going. Like the turn kept going and going. And I was like, and I had too much speed, and I lost. The tires slipped out, and I slid off the side of the road, and
jacked up this guy's rental car.
Well, there was some issues with it. Needless to say, I needed to get a tow truck.
Yes, I was just going to say that.
I needed a tow truck, and I never got out of the cup in time. Actually, I can't right now. I'd have to ask him. I don't even remember what happened.
I forgot about that part. Did he ever play in the game?
I think so, but
Cupless?
I don't know. I don't remember. But I'm sure the person next to him had a fucking cup, and this all was for not. But so anyway, so finally when the tow truck guy comes, I'm talking to him, and I'm like, dude, I don't know, where do I tow this thing? He goes, just take it to the insurance lot. That ended up being like a whole fucking issue. It was like so far away, and I was like, and then when after the truck was towed, I took everything out of it, but there was like something was left in there that was like in the visor, so I had to go back, which made us late to the next game. It was like hours and hours of
just
the day.
Just a comedy of errors.
Just like a comedy of errors.
Yeah.
So, the tow truck. So I'm driving the tow truck to like the lot, whatever, and the guy
you're driving the tow truck.
I'm in the tow truck with the guy
in the passenger seat.
The passenger seat. So he's driving, and he's telling me, he's like, he's like, dude, this is happening all over the place. Like people are, and not that it made me feel better, but I still like, I was
because
speeding.
the road was slick, right?
He's like, yeah,
how it rained.
He's like, this isn't my tow truck. He's like, I have a brand new tow truck that I got hit head on last night because a car lost control and plowed right into me.
Same idea of what you did.
The same kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so look, I'm not a reckless driver. Like I going too fast? Yes. There's no doubt about that. But it's not like I was I wasn't being like, the conditions were right for this type of thing in any event.
Yes.
So needless to say, okay, this finally like after like an Uber and hours and a tow truck and a and oh my God, call the insurance company and all these things.
Just a nightmare.
Yeah. I finally get to like the second game of the day, which is hours later, and I'm thinking like, fuck, okay, and Erik was at that game. Like I knew part of like this next.
Oh, he was.
He was at the game. I knew I was going to meet him.
Oh, for the first time, you were going to meet him in person.
Yeah.
Oh,
and so I'm like, okay, fine.
That's funny.
I'm like, this really sucks. I'm still kind of like, adrenaline dumped and like exhausted and annoyed and whatever. I'm not kidding you, James. As soon as I walk into the fucking rink, they're playing the Blue Jackets. As soon as I fucking walk into the rink, one of the dads on the team, he goes, yo. And those of you that can't see, I'm like pointing, and he was like pointing across the ice. He's like, Otto, he hit his head. Oh. And I was like, for fuck's sake.
Just keeps getting worse.
But like, so I went over there, and so then I get over there, okay, and so Otto is like, he hit his head hard. Like I didn't see it, but like I was told like you need to like this
to go over there and look at him. Yeah.
You need to like check him out. And so by the time when I got over there, he was like he wasn't, the tears had passed, and he was just kind of like sitting there with his head in his hands.
Yeah.
So then the Columbus Blue Jackets, this is not a knock on them, but they had like medical staff.
I was gonna say like an EMT. Yeah, I would think so.
No, but not like an Ohio EMT. Like they were part of like the Blue Jackets organization. They were there.
Oh, like the club.
I'm
like
pretty
the
sure.
NHL club. Okay.
No, not the NHL club. Like the youth organization.
So they had their own in-house,
they had like in-house medical staff.
Okay.
And
cool.
so this guy says to me, is like, we want to, check on your son. And at first I was like, oh, great, doctor, whatever. I'm more than happy for you guys,
Sure.
But then he's like, but if we observe anything, he can't play for like the next 24 hours. And since tomorrow is like tomorrow's a Saturday or a Sunday, he's like, we need it in writing from a doctor that he's cleared to play, and he has to wait 24 hours.
And you're not getting that on a weekend.
But dude, I'm also like, I just flew to fucking Ohio.
I know.
For a tournament. And listen, I'm not going to put my kid's safety above like the fact that I was traveling.
Of course.
But at the same time,
like,
I will. So after the game, so I refused medical attention, which was like a whole fucking stressor.
You did?
I refused medical attention.
You're like, no, do not look at my kid.
I'm like, don't you go near my kid. And the guy was kind of looking at me cross-eyed.
He's like, are you fucking serious?
Yeah, and I'm like, listen, I'm not. I think I said something literally like this. I said,
"Crazy hockey dad alert."
I said, I'm not a crazy hockey parent, but
I'm not a crazy hockey parent. However,
don't go near my fucking son. You doctor, you. So then this is what happened after that. So,
oh my goodness, there's more.
Yeah, there's more.
Oh my god!
So now, like now had this guy had there been no like medical person or whatever approaching me, like I would have like look, there's coaches on the bench, there's like people that have like some level of like concussion protocol like knowledge,
right?
Like myself included, having been a coach.
Yeah, sure.
But like, so I'm not ignorant to the matter, but I'm not a doctor either. So in any event, I said, like there's no telltale signs of a concussion. Like, yes, did his head hurt? Did he have a headache? Yes, he just smacked his head on the ice. That's like par for the course. Yeah. But there was like no nausea, no dizziness, vision, like no sensitivity to light, like things of this nature.
No vomiting, no any of that stuff. Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
And so I said, listen, Otto.
Not to be gross,
I said,
but
you don't have to play. You
right.
You can sit the rest of the game on the bench if you feel like you want to, like, if you're feeling well enough and you want to go like get on the ice and skate and see how you feel, like, go for it, but like, I'm not, you don't have to play, and listen, I don't want to give the wrong impression. If I actually thought there was something wrong with him,
yeah, you would have obviously.
I would have yanked him.
Yeah.
But like, having spoken to multiple coaches, like on the bench, myself having looked at him, it's like the kids fall and hit their head on the ice. This happened
all the time.
So again, I would never recommend anyone to throw caution to the wind. But like, there was plenty of conversations where I was like, listen, I'm sure he's fine. Okay. But later that night, I'm like ravaged with like guilt that like I didn't have him. And then I'm like,
God, I suck as a parent.
And then I was like, well, no. And then I was like, oh my God, what the fuck? I'm like, God damn this like medical professional for coming to like approach me.
Yeah, seriously. Why did you have to come over to me in the first place?
I know. If you just had left me alone, everything would be fine.
Yeah, seriously. So if you just weren't in the building or on lunch or something like that.
Dude, so I again, I don't have a car, but now I'm like, I have to take this kid to fucking urgent care.
And neither did your buddy, apparently.
No, he got a replacement. No, he got a replacement. No, he got a replacement after he took an Uber to the airport.
After you totaled his car.
Didn't get totaled.
You know what I mean. I don't mean totaled.
But yeah, in any event, he got a replacement but then I'm like, I got to take this kid to fucking urgent care to make sure that there's nothing wrong, because like I had
and you're still in Ohio, right?
Yeah, this is in Ohio.
Okay,
this was like in the evening. So I'm renting. I'm calling an Uber. We Uber over to like the closest thing. Like, we're fucking starving. We didn't have a ride anywhere. Like,
you didn't ask your buddy to borrow his new rental car?
No, I would have, but he wasn't there.
He was too busy going to the airport to pick up his second rental car.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I love it.
So in any event,
so what happened
to urgent care?
Yeah.
They said he was fine, and there's
of course you.
And
yeah,
listen, she didn't say there was no reason to be concerned. They're
but
like,
that
listen,
made you feel better that you got some validation.
Of course. And listen,
yeah,
I don't want to take head injuries lightly, but like I didn't.
You have an idea. We all know.
The bottom line was this: I am not someone that was going to make my kid do something that's unsafe. If this person had not been a doctor and done his like job, which was to come and check in on anyone who had like gone off the ice injured, because Otto, like, they stopped the play and then like, they helped him off the ice, which we see all the time. But
right.
Like, if this guy hadn't come up to me, I based on his behavior, like after the game, ultimately he was running around in the hallways with his friends, he was playing like whatever, like he was okay.
Yeah.
And if that guy never came up to me, I would have never taken him to the urgent care. And he ended up being fine. But it was just talk about a mind fuck and like guilt and like, blah, 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 blah. And so in any event, that was, and then we're leaving. The one good thing that happened, and I've been talking way too long, I think, about this story, but the one thing that I did that was good was the night before we had to leave, there was the weather was bad. It was like the forecast was bad. Right. So I immediately put my name on the standby list for the earlier flight.
Okay.
So we ended up getting on the last two seats on the flight before us.
Oh my God! Did the flight get canceled
after us? Like we're at the airport for a long time.
So it's a nightmare.
So that worked out. But in any event, we should talk about that on like another episode. Just talk about like injury experiences. I mean, Erik touched upon it with his kid, but a little different with like the head injuries, and it's nothing that should ever be taken lightly. I think that there is an element of common sense and not I don't know what the right word is or the right expression, but like what is it, like when you're overly concerned, you're overly scared, you're overly protective. No, there's an expression that's not coming to my mind, but I think that judgment calls are going to be made all the time when it comes to
your kid. You know your kid better than anybody else.
Yeah, and yeah, but like I don't know. For me, it was a real.
I remember you telling that story.
Yeah, it wasn't pleasant. It wasn't pleasant on so many levels, and that was not a great trip for this guy here. But I did meet Erik. That was nice.
Yeah, well, that's cool. Now let me ask you a question: did your insurance rates go up when you got home?
No.
No.
Nope. I had I was like, I think they got a bill for like $125 or something.
Okay, so that I figured maybe the Hockey Monster got you in another way, other than like gear and skating and teams.
No.
And,
Listen, it could
so
have been way
Monster
worse.
Didn't get you in that.
It could have been way worse.
Yes,
but
yes. But wait, the Hockey Monster got you as far as like tow truck bills and that type of stuff. No,
it was like $125.
Oh, that's it.
Yeah. I think no. I had to pay when I got to the insurance lot some amount of money.
Yeah, I would think so. Yeah.
I don't remember how much it was, but it wasn't anything that was like made me vomit in my mouth.
So not terrible, Hockey Monster.
No.
All right. Listen.
No.
Not the worst. The Hockey Monster always gets you, but that doesn't sound too terrible.
No,
it's definitely
fucking worst.
Good story, man. I like it. I'm glad that came to light during our conversation with Eric, because I forgot about that story until you said that.
Yeah. So moral of the story is, even if you have to go back to the hotel, it's better to be.
Don't rush. It's better to be late.
Yeah. Better be late and in the vehicle that still drives.
Yes, that's still drivable. Well said. I love it. Well said. All right, buddy. Good stuff. I like it. Good.
All right.
Are we missing anything? And we talked about our partners. I think we're good. This probably is our longest episode. So we appreciate everybody that has stayed with us up to this point. We love you all. Thank you so much for subscribing, for supporting, for downloading. Thank you so much. It really means a lot to both of us.
Yep. Thank you all. Please, we want to hear from more of you. One last thing, just to call out. Please write in at Bill from Mass. Write in. We actually have. I didn't get a chance to read it, but it came in earlier today. We got someone else wrote in, so maybe we'll read it next week.
Sounds good.
And Howie's Hockey, Crazy 10, Pro Stride Elite, CHD 10. Mention Crazy Hockey Dads with API and Eric, 10% off subscription. And
sounds good,
until next episode, bro.
Until next episode, don't let the Hockey Monster get you.
No hockey monsters.
See ya.
Chop.
Later.
Bye.